Hello and welcome to week 4 of ED 512. Our warm welcome this week is what's a pet peeve of yours that we may or may not know about you? It could be a pet peeve from your teacher world or your personal life. Anything is okay. Please add it to the instructor's opening remarks thread. Have fun with it. You can be brutally honest. For example, my newest pet peeve as a manager is when my staff do not read my emails and come and ask me a question that I have already answered that day in an email to them. It just makes me feel like, why do I even bother writing the emails if they're not going to get read? So this week's learning outcomes. To continue to grow as a community of learners while implementing CASTLE's 3 signature practices, a warm welcome, engaging activities, and an optimistic close. Understand the concept of education access through an ethical lens and apply ethical frameworks to professional experience. One quick side note before I go into the educational access, please remember to respond to peers. Everybody's initial posts have been excellent, and those of you who have been replying to your peers have been doing so in a meaningful way. So please continue to do that. But with this week, we start having some bigger assignments to do on top of the discussion boards as well. This is old. So ignore the part about choice readings, as that is not part of the class anymore. But as you are reading, I'm actually going to just completely get rid of this. That's useless now. Sorry. So we will talk about this one though. So when you consider the variety of schools and programs that exist in Minnesota, around the world, around the country, that wasn't very correct order. We have to think about what this means for learners. Opportunities in rural schools versus opportunities in urban schools. You could even include suburban or charter, private, etc. Families who want or do not want college for their child's future. How does that change their schooling from day one? How socioeconomic realities impact families' interaction with education. A family that has the money to send their child to whatever school they want is probably going to interact with school differently than one who is struggling to get by and may need their child to start working as soon as possible. Or if their child has to take care of other students, other children in the household, sorry. What about language and immigration status? How does that impact families' access to education? All of these are things to think about as we're thinking about the ethics of access to education. Who do we believe should receive an education? Is it everybody? Is it only certain people? What are the essential components of a baseline education? Is it learning how to read and do math? Is it ensuring that you can do critical thinking, check sources, that you can understand that not everything you read everywhere is going to be true, and that there are varying viewpoints on any one topic, none of which may be the 100% accurate answers. There might not be one. What happens when programs fail to provide even that baseline? Those of you who live in Minnesota have probably seen some articles in newspapers lately about charter schools and how the state is spending roughly $1 billion a year on charter schools. And I think it was like 70-something% of them were failing to meet the state's minimum standards. So what happens? And what happens on the reverse when some programs go well beyond that baseline? Just some things to think about on what should access to education look like. Like I said, this was from the older version of the class. In the older version of the class, every week you had choices on what to read from a big list, and that sometimes got very overwhelming. So instead, we're looking at chapter 5 this week. Chapter 5 is about approaches to making ethical decisions. And there are lenses, which will be discussed in there. And so for discussion board 1, choose 2 of the 5 cautions listed on page 161. And please do this before you read. and write your thinking about each caution statement. Provide examples to support your belief. Make sure you include the title of each caution above your written response. That'll help your peers know which one you're talking about, which ones, as you're supposed to write about 2 of the 5. And then remember, please respond to 2 peers. For discussion board number 2, this can be done after you're done reading. Please complete both self-assessments 5.1 and 5.2. They should be on pages 169 and 170. Regarding your perception of your school or organization's justice, as well as your own level of altruism. Reflect on your findings on both assessments and write your insights on the importance of creating a school climate where justice is prominent and how educators can promote altruistic behaviors in their school settings. And again, please remember to reply to 2 peers. Next, we have a quick look at the calendar again. Just a reminder that your first big assignment, the moral reasoning reflection paper, will be due this upcoming Saturday. And a week from then, you will have an ethical and moral leadership presentation. I'm going to talk about both of those 2 this week. And then next week, I'll focus on the presentation and the normative leadership theories impact paper, which will be our focus for the rest of the time after you're done with that presentation. All right. Let me zoom in here. Maybe. I'll just try to make this bigger quick. Sorry. Don't want anybody struggling to read along. All right. So, as I said last week, you should view Michael Sandel's video. It is 55 minutes long, so if you haven't viewed it already, please start that early so you can get started on this paper and give yourself lots of time. It may challenge some of your personal and or professional beliefs on what is right in ethical decision-making. What I would like you to do is select and describe a current local, national, or global event and its outcome. Remember that if it is an ongoing situation, you can discuss where it is currently. Furthermore, describe your insights and what is right in relation to the events through the lens of consequential/utilitarian and Kant's categorical moral reasoning, which are described in Johnson's chapter 5, which is your assigned reading for this week. Lastly, students will describe your personal beliefs on which lens of moral reasoning resonated with you for that current event. It doesn't need to be the one that you necessarily connect with more, but the one that you think connects more with this current event and how you feel about it. Please remember to refer to the assignment rubric in the syllabus. But the expectations are that you're going to describe a current local, national, or global event and its outcome or current state of affairs. So, for example, if you were talking about the war between Russia and Ukraine, you couldn't say an outcome, but you could say where they're currently at. Examine the event's outcome through the lens of consequential, utilitarian, moral reasoning lens and state your insights on what is right. And secondly, so these should be 2 separate sections, examine the event's outcome through the lens of Kant's categorical moral reasoning lens and state your insights on what is right. And then, so really there's 4 sections of this paper. Describe it, go through consequential utilitarian, go through Kant's categorical, and then lastly, state your personal beliefs on which lens of moral reasoning resonated with you the most and why. This is a 5 to 6 page paper, not including your cover page or reference pages. Please make sure to include both of those. And you can use first person voice. So when you get down to personal beliefs, you can say, I believe this. That is perfectly acceptable in this paper. If you have questions on this, please email me. All right, then moving forward to what is due in week 5. So you have 2 weeks for this. It is to promote ethical and moral leadership through the analysis of an educational issue through the application of 5 ethical perspectives outlined in Johnson's chapter 5. Utilitarianism, Kant's categorical imperative, justice as fairness, pragmatism, and altruism. And then remember to please refer to the assignment rubric. You are going to design an 8 to 10 slide presentation. You can use PowerPoint, Prezi, Google Slides, anything else that works for you that allows you to have both a visual and a voiceover component because you are going to need to post this for me to view. You are going to then use those slides to cover an educational issue at your school, or if you are not currently in a school, find one that impacts a school near you, or that you know a great deal about so that you can analyze it through each of the 5 ethical perspectives. So if I were doing this, I would probably have a slide talking about the issue and then at least one slide looking at it through each of the perspectives. The analysis should promote thoughtful reflection on the various ethical perspectives on addressing the educational issues in schools today. So you're trying to encourage the viewers to think, which can be very hard to do. As I'm sure all of you as teachers know, a lot of students just like to get the information and then regurgitate it. One of the hardest things that we do is teaching people to critically think. Please include a minimum of 5 in-text citations to support the ethical perspective analysis of the issue. This doesn't all need to be just Johnson. It could be, but please bring in outside articles or books as well. The intended audience for this presentation is educational professionals. So imagine that you are giving this presentation to other teachers, admin, support staff in the school. We can ignore this next part because we are not synchronous, but I do ask, please keep your presentation under 10 minutes. If you end up going to 12, that's fine, but it gets to be a very long week for me if I'm watching, 14, 30-minute presentation. So please keep it within 10 minutes. Your presentation should be posted with a voiceover, PowerPoint, or a recording of you presenting the slides. So like I said earlier, any type of platform will work as long as you can post a recording of you giving the presentation that shows both the slides and your voice. I don't necessarily need to see you. I prefer to be able to see you doing the talking, but if it doesn't allow you to do that, that is fine. It's not required. This should be done in third-person voice, so it shouldn't be I. You should be talking about this in a more formal APA professional way. Just so you guys know, for the majority of the program, you will be talking in that third-person voice, so it's a great thing to practice. If anybody wants to see my daughter, come here. You want to say hi to everybody? Yeah. Say hi. Hi. So we're just recording right now, so I'm going to put you back down and you can go play, okay? You were supposed to wait for me to be done. All right. And for our close, just thoughts for yourself. What is one thing about the fall that you are looking forward to? It can be personal, it can be professional. Keep that in mind as you begin to rush around and make sure other things don't get in the way of what you're looking forward to. A couple things for me. I apologize for my kiddo trying to play in the background. I am going up to visit the Togo Correctional Facility, which is way up north, like kind of by Canada, and in a couple of weeks. This will be my first time getting to see that facility, so I'm very excited for that. I'm also very excited to go trick-or-treating with my kids and to watch football and hopefully not watch my Eagles stink as much as they did last week. So have a great week. I look forward to seeing your discussion board posts and your papers this Saturday. Have a great week.